Hello everyone, it's Mr. Salimata over here, and in today's lesson we'll be looking at adding fractions. Now adding fractions is similar to subtracting fractions, but the key idea is you need to have the same denominator in order for you to add the fractions. Now what do I mean by that? Let's take a look at these few questions that I've just written on this whiteboard. Yes. Now, remember I said the key idea is you need to have the same denominator in order for you to add the fractions. Now, let's take a look at our first question over here. Yes. So this bottom part, yes, this bottom part over here of our fractions, yes, is the denominator, and the upper part is the numerator. Now, the goal is to have the same denominator in order for you to what? To add the fractions. Yes. Now, if we look at our first question over here, we can notice that we have the same denominator, right? Which is 12. Yeah. So now, for us to solve this question, knowing that we have the same denominator, which is 12, all what we simply have to do is we have to add the numerator. Yes. So what is our denominator over here? Same denominator, right? In both fractions, 12. Yes, so we just have to add our what? Our numerator over there, right? Which is 7 plus 2. What does that give us? That gives us 9, right? Now, if you look at this fraction over here, we can simplify it, okay? We can simplify it. 3 into 9 is what? Is 3, right? And 3 into 12 is 4. Okay, so there we go. We have solved our first question over here, and this is our answer. Okay, so now let us look at our second question. Yeah, now if we look at our second question also, it has what? The same denominator, which is what? Which is 8. Yeah, so then what are we supposed to do? All what we have to do is what? Is add the what? The numerator, right? Okay, which is 11 plus 7. What does that give us? 11 plus 7 is what? Is 18, right? Okay, so now if we look at this fraction over here, it's what? It's an improper fraction, right? But before we get into talking about improper fractions, let us first try to simplify this fraction over here. Okay, so now let us simplify. Let us simplify it. Yes. 2 into 18 is what? Is 9, right? And 2 into 8, that's 4, right? Okay, fine. Now, whenever you have an improper fraction, like the one that we have over here, I would advise for you to change it into a mixed fraction or a mixed number if needed. Yeah? Okay, so let us now turn this improper fraction into a mixed number. Yes, and all we have to do is, allow me to write it here. Yes, therefore all we have to do is 4 into 9 is what? Is 2, right? And what's the remainder? The remainder is 1, and we keep our what? Our denominator, and this will be our final answer. Okay, so now let us look at our third question. Okay, so now if we look at our third question over here, if we look at our first fraction, the denominator is 6, right? And if we look at our second fraction over here, the denominator is 4, right? So they do not have a common denominator, right? So now remember, the main key idea is you have to have the same denominator, and then you can what? You can add them. So now for us, what we have to do right now is we have to find the lowest common denominator. Now, I'm sure we're asking ourselves to say, what is lowest common denominator? What does Mr. Salimata mean? So the lowest common denominator is simply a number that both 6 and 4 can go in without leaving any remainder. So we're simply talking about what? About multiple. Yes, like multiple of what? Multiples of 6 and 4, but finding the lowest common multiple that both 6 and 4 can go in without leaving a remainder. Okay, so now if we look at 6 and 4, the lowest common denominator, or rather the lowest common multiple, is 12, right? Okay, so now let's do that. Yeah, so that would be now, that would be equal to, yes, 6, that would be 12, yes, plus 4, that would be 12. Right now we are like, Mr. Salimata, where has the 12 come from? How did we come from 6 and then get to 12, and how did we come from 4 to get to 12, right? Okay, so what we did right here is simply multiplying, right? So for us to get 12, what did we do? Yes, for 6 to 12, what did we do? We just multiplied by 2, right? Because 6 multiplied by 2 is 12, right? And then for us to get from 4 to 12, what did we do? We just multiplied by 3. 4 multiplied by 3 gives us 12, right? So now we have the same denominators, right? Or we have the same denominator, which is what? 12, right? Okay, so now the thing here is we cannot only change the denominator, right? We also have to deal with the numerator, okay? So now what we have to do here is the same number that you multiplied to change your denominator to 12 is the same number that you have to multiply to the numerator. Okay, so for us, we're looking at what? We multiplied by 2, right? So we also have to multiply by 2 to the what? The numerator, which is a 5, right? To get this number over here. Okay, so now for us to get this number, we have to what? Multiply by 2. So 5 multiplied by 2 gives us what? Gives us 10. Right? Okay, so now let's go with this other fraction over here. The numerator is 3. What number did we multiply with 4 to get 12? 3, right? So now we have to multiply 3. Yes, we have to multiply what? 3 by 3. Right? So 3 by 3 gives us what? Gives us 9, right? So that will be 9 right there. Yes? Okay. We have the same denominator. So what do we have to do? We just have to add, right? So therefore, yes, we have the same denominator, which is our 12. Yes. 10 plus 9 is what? 19. Right? This is an improper fraction. Yes. If required, please change it into a mixed number or a mixed fraction, right? Okay, so let's do that. 12 into 19 is what? Is 1, right? And what is the remainder? 7. And we keep the what? The denominator. Okay, so this right here is our final answer. Now, in case you guys have problems, or rather want to know more about how we can change an improper fraction into a mixed fraction or into a mixed number, yes, I have a video on that. You can check that lesson out, and then you can familiarize yourself on how you can change an improper fraction into a mixed fraction or into a mixed number. Yeah? Okay, so now let's go on and look at our fourth question over here. Yes? Now, if we look at our fourth question over here, you can also tell that the fractions, or rather, sorry, the denominator are not the same, right? And the requirement is we have to have the same what? The same denominator, right? So now, what do we have to do? We have to look for the what? For the lowest common denominator, or rather, the lowest common multiple, right? And the lowest common multiple of 12 and 18 is what? Is 36, right? Okay, so now that would be equal to, yes, I'll just write my denominator my denominators right now. 36, yes, 36. All right, so now how did we get from 12 to 36? Yes, how did we do that? How did we get from 12 to 36? We just multiplied by what? By 3, because 12 multiplied by 3 is 36. So remember, we also have to do the same thing with the numerator by multiplying by 3, right? 7 multiplied by 3 is what? That gives us 21, right? So we'll have 21 over there. Okay, now how did we get from 18 to 36? We multiplied by 2, right? Because 2 multiplied by 18 gives us what? Gives us 36, right? So we do the same to the numerator. Yes, 5 multiplied by 2, that's what? That's 10, right? Now we have the same what? The same denominator over here. So all what we have to do is we just have to add our what? Our numerators. And 21 plus 10 gives us what? Gives us 31, right? Over 36, right? So this is our answer for question number 4. Okay, so now let's move on. Let's look at question number 5. Yeah, question number 5 is different from the questions that we've just done. Yes, now this question number 5 over here involves what? Mixed numbers, or rather mixed fractions, right? Okay, so now for us to solve this question, there are 2 ways in which we can solve it. Okay, the first way, I'm just going to show you guys now. The first way is we have to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. So let's go with the first way. Okay, so let's turn this first fraction, mixed fraction, and this second mixed fraction into what? Improper fractions. Okay, so let's go with our first one, right? And how do we do that? We have to multiply 8 by what? By 3 gives us 24, and then add 5 and keep the denominator. All right, so 8 by 3 is 24, right? Plus 5 is what? 29. So we will have what? 29 over, we have to keep our denominator over here, which is 8. We are done with our first fraction over here. We just turn that into an improper fraction, right? Plus, we'll do the same with our second fraction over here. 8 multiplied by 2 is 16. Plus 1 is 17, right? So 17, we're keeping our denominator over there, right? So there we go. If you look at these fractions over here, they have the same denominator. So then what does that tell us? We just have to what? To add the numerators, right? So 29 plus 17, what does that give us? That gives us 46. 46 over 8, right? We can simplify this. Huh? Okay. 2 into 46 is what? 23, right? And 2 into 8 is what? Is 4. Now, this is an improper fraction, and remember I said you can turn it into a what? A mixed number if needed, right? So let's do that. 4 into 23 is what? Gives us what? Gives us 5. And what's the remainder? The remainder will be what? 3, yes, and over 4. So we have what? We have solved this question number 5 over here. Okay, all right, so now let's look at the second method, or the second way that you can now solve this kind of question. Okay, so now what you can do is you just have to add these whole numbers over here. Yes, that would be your first step. So let us do that. 3, I'm adding the whole numbers. Yes, 3 plus 2, that gives us what? That gives us 5. Okay, so let us leave this over here. All right, we've dealt with what? With the whole numbers, and we'll be left with what? With these fractions over here, which is 5 over 8 plus 1 over 8, right? So we can deal with these fractions over here. They have the same denominator, right, which is 8. So all what we have to do is what? Add the numerators, right? 5 plus 1 is 6. Now we can simplify this fraction, yeah? Which is what? 2 into 6 is what? Is 3. 2 into 8 is 4. Right now, remember, we have our whole number here, right? So all what we just have to do is add this whole number to this fraction. Yes, so that would be what? 5, 3 over 4. And you have solved it, right? So as you can see, both methods work, right? We have arrived at the same answer. Okay, so you can choose to use the first method by changing the mixed number into an improper fraction and then work it out, or you can start by just adding the whole numbers and then work out the fractions in the way that we've just done now. All right, okay, so now let's look at our sixth example over there, or rather our sixth question. Okay, it is also a what? It contains what? Mixed numbers, or rather mixed fraction. And I'll go with the first method, which is changing both these mixed numbers into improper fractions. Okay, so let's do that. Let's change our first one over here, our first fraction. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8, right? 8 plus 3 is 11. Yes, over 4 plus. Let's go with our second fraction over here. 6 multiplied by 1 is 6. Plus 5, 11. 11 over 6. Now, let us look at our denominator. Yes, let's look at our denominators over here. We don't have the same denominators, right? So now we have to what? To find the lowest common denominator. That both 4 and 6 can go into without leaving a remainder. And the lowest common denominator is 12, okay? So I'll just write it over here, right? So then we shall have what? 12, yes? 12. Okay, so now, how did we get to 12? Yes, how did this 4, this denominator over here, get to 12? We multiplied by 3, so we do the same. Yes, we multiply by 3, the numerator as well. 11 by 3, that gives us what? 33, right? Then, how did we get from 6 to 12? We multiplied by 2, right? We do the same with the numerator. And we shall have what? 11 multiplied by 2 gives us what? 22, right? And all what we have to do now that we have the same denominators, we just have to add our numerators over there. So 33 plus 22 is 55. Yes, it gives us 55. You keep the denominator, which is the 12 over there. Yes, it's an improper fraction. So we can what? We can turn that into a mixed number, or rather a mixed fraction, right? Okay, so now 12 into 55. It will go there how many times? 4 times. And what will be the remainder? The remainder will be 7 over 12. So there we go. We have solved our sixth question. Okay, now let us look at our last question over here, which is question number 7. Right? Okay, so now let's deal with it. So now, as you can see, we have 5 as a whole number, right? And then we have 7 over 8, which is a fraction. But then this 5 over here, right? This 5 over here, we can also write it as 5 over 1. It's the same because 1 into 5 is 5, right? Okay, plus 7 over 8. If we look at our denominators over here, they are not the same. right? So let us now find the lowest common denominator. The lowest common denominator of 1 and 8 is 8, right? Okay, so now I'll just write it over here, right? So we know the lowest common denominator of 1 and 8 is 8, right? So 8, 8, okay? How did we get from 1 to 8? We just multiplied by 8, right? Multiply by 8 and do the same to the numerator, right? 5 by 8 is what? 40. Okay. How did we get to 8? Just multiply by 1, right? 8 multiplied by 1 is 8. We do the same. 7, the numerator, multiplied by 1, just gives us 7, right? Okay, we have the same denominators now, right? Which is what? 8, right? So all we have to do is what? Add our numerators over there. So 40 plus 7 is what? 47 over 8. This is an improper fraction. Yes, let us change it into a mixed fraction or a mixed number. Okay, 8 into 47 is what? Is 5, right? What is the remainder? The remainder will be 7, and we keep our denominator. So there we go. We have solved our last question over there.